So there was a nationwide study that found that Americans at large are lonely human beings. Yes, we are considered lonely. They did a study, a nationwide study, and they found that Americans, especially the younger generation, which is super surprising, are very lonely. Let me get into the details and then we'll talk about it. So, there's a nationwide study, and it was done by Cigna. It found that loneliness is widespread in America, with nearly 50% of its respondents reporting that they feel alone or left out always or sometimes. Using one of the best known tools for measuring loneliness, the UCLA Loneliness Scale, Cigna surveyed 20,000 adults online across the country. The University of California, Los Angeles tool uses a series of statements and a formula to calculate a loneliness score based on its responses. Score on the UCLA scale ranged from 20 to 80. People scoring 43 and above were considered lonely in the Cigna survey, and with a higher score suggesting a greater level of loneliness or isolation. So more than half of the survey respondents, 54%, said they always or sometimes feel that no one knows them well. 56% reported that they sometimes or always felt like the people around them are not necessarily with them, and 2 in 5 felt like they lack companionship. That their relationships aren't meaningful, and that they are isolated from others. The survey found that the average loneliness score in America is 44, which suggests that the most of Americans are considered lonely. Remember, that loneliness number is 43, and the average in America is 44. We are slightly lonely, right? Like 43 is you're not lonely, 44 is lonely. I don't know how they made that decision, but that's the decision. Based on the survey and based on the study, right? 44. So we just hit that number. So we're not extremely lonely. At least the average is not extremely lonely, but the average person is or does feel lonely, right? Several studies have documented that the public health effect of loneliness, it has been linked to higher risk of coronary heart disease and stroke. It has been shown to influence our genes and our immune systems, and even recovery from breast cancer. So understand this. Being lonely isn't a, oh, let's talk about your feelings, I hope you feel better type of nonsense. No, this is actual real health. It affects you, it affects us human beings in a very real way. Coronary heart disease, in my line of work, the number one killer in this country is heart disease. So the fact that loneliness is a risk factor, to getting these diseases, or at least having these diseases be worse off on a person that is lonely than a person that does not feel lonely, is incredible. And it also prevents stroke, and they even went as far as saying breast cancer. This is serious. We don't like to think about mental health, but mental health is a real thing, and it affects our physical health in a huge, huge way. And then this is the most interesting part to me, the difference when you break it up by age. Members of Generation Z, born in between the mid-1990s and the early 2000s, had an overall loneliness score of 48.3. Millennials, just a little bit older, scored 45.3. By comparison, baby boomers scored 42.4. The greatest generation, people ages 72 and above, had a score of 38.6 on the loneliness scale. So let's break this down. Generation Z, 48.3. That is the loneliest compared to the rest of the generations, right? Because 43 is not lonely, 44 is lonely. The higher you are, the more lonely you are. The lower you are, the less lonely you feel. 48.3 is Generation Z, the youngest generation currently. Millennials are 45.3. The baby boomers are 42.4, which makes them not lonely. Baby boomers are less lonely than millennials. And then last but not least, the oldest generation, the 72-year-olds, are 38.6. This blows my mind. Why? Because when you're 72 or older, understand that the most of your friends have passed away. Your parents have passed away. Your siblings are starting to pass away. You are literally more alone the older you get. More people in your life have gone, have passed away. Accidents, sickness, illness. You know this better than I do as nurses. So the fact that they're the least lonely generation in our country, in our society, really surprises me. And the trend continues. The younger you are, the more lonely you feel. Does this have anything to do with our obsessions with cell phones? Well, let's find out. In fact, some researchers published in 2017 at the San Diego State University suggest that more screen time on social media may have caused a rise in depression and suicide among American adolescents. The study also found that the people who spend less time looking at screens and more time having face-to-face social interactions were less likely to be depressive or suicidal. And we have just a little more. This would, on the surface, contradict the new findings on screen time, but they also say that previous research shows that how people use social media determines its influence on one's sense of loneliness or happiness, and that is important. That's the big caveat here, right? It depends on how you are using this, how you are using the loneliness, how you are using the screen that you are using, right? If you are on the phone because that is your version of social interaction, you are going to be more lonely. You are going to consider yourself lonely. You are going to feel as though people don't understand you. If you are using social media to kick off a social interaction, let's make a Facebook group and have parties and events and plan events, that is a good thing. That is you using social media to contact and group with other people and then actually going out to meet these people. If you're swiping on Tinder and having Tinder conversations with your boo but never meeting up in person, that is why you feel lonely. If you go to Tinder, swipe right and make plans to meet up, you are not going to feel lonely because you are going to make that social media app is going to help you ignite the relationship with someone, and that will prevent you from being depressed and lonely. This is craziness to me. I think the study is super cool. I'm happy I found it. Just remember, I do believe I'm heavy hardcore on social media. I don't know. I have my days where I feel lonely. I have my days where I feel like people don't understand me. But I don't feel lonely in general. I feel like I have enough reach to go grab people and go out and have fun and do me and party hardy. I just think you gotta use social media to start your social interactions. Social media can't be the definition of your social interactions, even